Hey guys, Matt Wonka here with another RPG discussion. Today I want to talk a little bit about magic items. And, if you play RPGs other than Dungeons and Dragons or fantasy-based things, a magic item might not necessarily involve magic. Clarke's third law, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's going to come back later when we start talking about things. Magical items are essential in D&D and role-playing games because they let your characters do things beyond them. Luke Skywalker, sure, he has the Force and everything, but part of what makes him a Jedi Knight is his lightsaber that lets him cut things in half. And that's pretty cool. Part of being Darth Vader is his, respirator and all of this other technology that he has that allows him to do more stuff than he himself could do. And that's what that's what magical items are. They are just gear that people have. A Marine might be an awesome soldier, but he's not as amazing if he doesn't have his, special gun or his ghillie suit or whatever else. I don't know. I'm not a military person. It doesn't matter what the person is, what they're trying to do. There's always some equipment somewhere that'll make it easier for him. As a DM, part of what I'm trying to do is trying to build character lore, and part of that is giving people cool things. And it's hard. It's harder than you'd think to give people cool things that they're going to use forever and ever. There's been times where I haven't been good at giving out good magical items. I've got a couple of things that, have stuck around. My friend Paul, however, is much better at it. He invented chrono eggs, which allow you to take your turn again. He also he has this portal dagger. He has anti-gravity rope. There's a lot of really, really cool things, magic items that he's created. And I think that it's a key point of being a DM on this creation of magical items. And I think one of the important things is that you don't use numbers at all. Your magical items should be story-based, the ones that are handed out from the DM. Let the characters buy things to build their class and build it however they want. But as a DM, that's not the type of thing. You shouldn't be worried about numbers, because once you start doing things with numbers, it ends up in somebody's hands who is going to break the game with that item. Being able to never miss or deal a lot of extra damage or whatever. Magic items make it easier for players to do breaking things. And that is one of the things as DMs that you have to look out for. And don't feel bad when you have to take away magical items. It's easier if you've given it to them, but sometimes it's just horrible when you have to take that away from a player because they have a sense of entitlement about that magical item. So that gets a little bit awkward. I think a lot of the better magical items that a DM can give out to players are more story-based than rules-based. For example, something that allows you to, an amulet that I'm going to be using in one of my campaigns. I've already mentioned it a little bit. I call it the Amulet of Recall. It's a teleportation amulet, a magical teleporter that allows you to return to a place that you've been. And it's set up with the rules that I roughly have outlined for it, where it's not going to be useful in combat. But if the party can get their hands on it, they can do some pretty awesome things. And I'm not sure if I'm going to let the party have their hands on it yet. They're going to have to try really hard. But if they do, they can do a lot with it. And I think that's going to be a key thing. But, as I said, it's not going to be useful in combat. They could escape combat if they wanted to. But only one person per amulet. And the other people would be left doing that fight. And we've already had one person run out in combat, and it did not go well for them. The 2 times that he's done it, actually. He's pretty bad at it. I might have to do something about that when he plays with me on Thursday. I think one of the important aspects of a DM handing out magical items is to make sure that they're not mechanics-based, that they're role-playing based, or story-based. Another magical item that I have is more of a story item. Even though it's involved in combat, it's not going to make combat easier. It's actually going to make it more difficult for the party. But that's a spoiler, and I'm not going to share that at the moment. Maybe I'll tell you a little bit about this bracer after the party has interacted with it. But that's going to be a bit a while away, so we'll see what happens there. So, as I mentioned before, Clarke's third law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. there's also variations of it where any sufficiently explained magic is indistinguishable from technology, and a couple other just rephrasings of the thing. But pretty much, what's the difference between a magical amulet that allows you to press the jewel on it and you turn invisible, and a cloaking shield that you activate on your wrist and you fade from sight? Not really anything. And that's a great way to think about magical items, and you can come up with technological based equivalents of these items and be able to use them in your game. And it's much easier to think, okay, when would this invisibility spell wear off, when you're thinking not, oh, it's the one ring and he's just permanently invisible. Or if you're instead thinking, okay, he's refracting light's bending around him, and this is just a field. It's like a force field thing. I guess he wouldn't be able to interact with anyone, so it goes off when he would attack, or like make a check involving somebody else probably, or open a door. Pretty much he can't touch anything. So yeah, that would be a limitation on that item, and that's a way that you can come up with magic items that are more realistic than instead of the ones that I've been giving out, which the last couple I have given out have been a belt that allows you to pick up anything as long as it's awesome, which I gave to I don't know, that could have been used better. I also gave somebody once a sword that could cut through anything, and that could have been better as well. I've also given somebody an amulet with like a demon possessing it or something, and that was supposed to be destroyed at the end of the story, but it stuck around a lot longer than I thought it would. I also gave out my Sword of Repulsion, which had a numbers thing in it, but that you smack somebody with the sword and roll a d10, and you, depending on who is heavier, who has a higher strength check, depending pretty much on how I wanted to call it at the time, one party went flying, either you or the person with the sword, or the enemy, whichever. The two people involved in that hitting one another transaction would go ricocheting. And that's really it for magical items I've given to players for a while, because I've been kind of leery of it for a bit. I do my Amulet of Recall that at least one character has already in an upcoming campaign, and we'll see if other people acquire them. But it's magical items are difficult, and it goes along with how difficult it is for our party to give out treasure because of how how our game has run, where we've been just cycling through mini campaigns effectively. We don't have the closure of receiving the big treasure at the end and then going out and spending it and doing stuff with that money. And that makes it hard as a DM when I'm trying to give out rewards of, monetary rewards in the game. I don't know how to do that without being heavy-handed. This last week, or a week or two ago, when I was running a thing, I gave out way too much gold, and I didn't know how to fix it, other than just, it didn't really happen. Somebody tricked you out of it or something. And I hated doing that, but I had to, because otherwise it was game-breaking, because someone was able to buy like a +4 staff, and because he didn't understand that characters that you continue to next campaigns, but when another DM's playing, don't necessarily have the same equipment. So that caused a bit of trouble, and that was mostly my fault. And I don't know what I could have done differently to make it work. And that's something that I'm still thinking about, how I could have fixed that. But that'll work later. I have been thinking about money in D&D, and effectively I've done a bit of math based around what a basic meal costs and stuff. And a gold, it's good to think of a gold in D&D as $100. And so a magic item, like a level 1 magical item, is $30,000 effectively. I think maybe it's 2,600, but a basic, like a basic enchanted amulet that boosts your stats just that little tiny bit in 4th edition costs the same amount as a car. And I think that's an important thing, and I haven't entirely wrapped my mind around the economics of a D&D world where there's adventurers who afford these things. Heirlooms are not a thing that I've had in D&D for a bit, but now I'm going to have to start doing it, because stuff's expensive. And, you know, we have some extremely magical societies in our world. So you can see them churning out this type of magical items. But, you know, once you get up, you know, at 100 gold, once you get up to like a level 5 item is 1,000 gold, which means that's $100,000. A bag of holding cost as much, you know, translated to $2014. It costs about the same as a small house. And that's really weird to me that that's the value of it. And I don't have it entirely figured out in my head, but it is a good ballpark to figure out, like, hey, you know, a night's in a good hotel, that's 1 gold. You know, with a little bit extra silver, you know, a silver is about $20. You know, a bit of extra silver gives you a nice breakfast and lunch the next day. And that's how you're able to come up with prices. So that's my new rule of thumb for that. I know the titles is magic items, but I think money and magic items are a lot related. If you guys have any thoughts about this topic, I know this was a little bit disjointed. I didn't have as much time to think about it. I'll probably cover it again some other time later. But please leave me your comments about magic items down below. What's the coolest magic item one of your characters has had? That's always a great question. And yeah, please tell me. I want to know. And yeah, give me other comments if you think there's other stuff I should know. Anyway, my name is Mehmet Wamkow. This has been an RPG discussion. If you guys stay online, see you guys next time. Peace out.